Where is Elintra Fischer? Ellie is what she's known by. She just turned 16 on December 23rd, lived in Jefferson County with her mom, who has full legal custody of her, and her siblings. She's been missing since New Year's Day. She took off in her mother's Honda Civic, abandoned the car at a gas station with a note saying that she was fine and that she was safe. And then her mom was able to retrieve that vehicle, but that is the last communication that Elizabeth Roundy has had with her daughter. I'm Nate Eaton, and since January, we've been following this story. And tonight, we're going to talk more about Elintra Fischer, where she could be, but also how this situation apparently is not that abnormal when it comes to the FLDS and polygamous families. In fact, one expert that I'll speak with tonight tells me that children, thousands of them potentially, are scattered across the Western states away from their parents. They've been separated because the leaders of the church have deemed it so. Elizabeth says it's human trafficking, it's child trafficking, and that it's happening more and more, and something needs to be done to stop it. A news conference was held earlier this week with Elizabeth and several other families who are experiencing this exact same thing. They got together in Cedar City, Utah. They shared their stories. They came together publicly, and now they are trying to get something done to get their children home. In just a few minutes, we're going to talk with Elizabeth Roundy about what the past few months have been like for her, about if there's any new developments in the case, and her message for her missing teenage daughter. We also have Tanya Toole. She is the founder of Holding Out Help. In 2008, she had cancer. She was told it was terminal. She recovered, and during her recovery, somebody came to her and said, "Can you help a family of 6 who is fleeing polygamy?" And so she took them into her home. And since then, she has helped thousands and thousands of families dealing with this exact same thing. She's created this organization to help those trying to get out of polygamy. She says it's like refugees fleeing a country into something new, and they need all the help they can get. We're also going to talk with Roger Hool. He is an attorney. Since 2004, actually in 2004, he got a call from someone needing help who was fleeing polygamy. And since then, without charging a dime, he has helped hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of families. Hopefully, by the end of this broadcast tonight, there might be some answers, or at least some education, so that we can know how we can help people in similar situations and maybe make a crack or some sort of dent in solving this problem. Okay, so joining me now, we have Tanya Toole. She is the founder of Holding Out Help, and Roger Hool. He is an attorney who has worked closely with many of these women who have children in polygamy, the FLDS organization. Roger, I want to talk to you a little bit more about that. But Tanya, can you give our viewers just a brief synopsis of what is Holding Out Help?
Yeah, we're just simply a grassroots nonprofit organization that started about 15 years ago after our family took in a family, and we just realized the needs out there. And so we started Holding Out Help with the premise of just to provide all the resources that somebody would need when acclimating into mainstream society from their polygamous culture.
And you were telling me before we started to record this conversation that you actually had cancer, and you had moved into a big home, and someone came to you and said, "Can you take in a family of 6?" That's a pretty bold request, and bold to say yes to.
You know, when you're faced with death, you're like, okay, what difference can you make here on earth? And so when somebody handed this family of 6, we were like, gosh, do we say no in case the cancer, rears its ugly head again, or do we say yes and live boldly and try to make a difference? And so we said yes, and this family of 6 landed on our doorstep, and they really changed our lives forever. They were kind of describing what people go through, and we just couldn't turn a blind eye. And so when they were moving out, they sat us down and they said, "Would you be willing to do something more?" And at that point, I was a stay-at-home mom, and we said sure, and we started the agency, and we've been going strong now for quite a long time.
And what does the agency do? How do you help these families and these women who need the help?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we provide all the necessary resources when they come out of their closed communities, from food, clothing, shelter. We have a counseling division, education, job skills. We refer them out to legal services like Roger Hool, and just even the most basic life skills. And so really anything a refugee coming in from another country might need.
So you kind of compare people fleeing polygamy to a refugee because they've lived such a sheltered life and now they're going into a whole new environment. Would I be accurate in saying that?
Absolutely. You know, I don't use the word often, but we sometimes will refer to them as domestic refugees. And they may speak English, but they don't even understand our humor. Like it's so different, but they just don't. When you come from a closed environment where all decisions are made, and then you're shoved out into a competitive environment, you don't know how to make the most basic decisions. So you wouldn't know your favorite food, your favorite color, maybe not even know how to open a checking account. That's what our agency does. We step up alongside and we walk them through all the steps of what mainstream society brings on them. So
All right. So Roger, how did you get involved in helping families fleeing the FLDS? Would that be proper to say, or those that are trying to get away from polygamy and start a new life?
Either fleeing or being kicked out.
Mm.
And those who choose to separate themselves, I can often help. I was just working in my office one day in 2004, and I received a phone call from a former FLDS man who had left, and people were landing on his doorstep because Warren Jeffs was kicking out young boys and sending men away and doing all sorts of things, and needed legal help. And I got involved in that, and one thing led to another, and it's been almost 19 years.
Wow. You know, I remember back in the mid 2000s, I think around 2007 or 8, it was in the news, you know, when the police raided the temple, I think in Texas.
Right.
And then there was a real big focus on it. And then I think it kind of went away, and then it kind of comes and goes over the years with media coverage and Netflix documentaries. But Roger, over the years since you started this, how many people do you think you've helped?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. It could be, I don't know,
thousands.
a couple of hundred maybe.
Well, and I've done 2,600, and you have to understand we have a group of attorneys we send them to, but Roger is one of them, and I send a majority his way and say, please help, and he does it all free and pro bono. So
Oh my gosh. Wow. That's a huge undertaking, Roger. So what exactly are you helping them with legally?
Well, at this point, most of our focus is on trying to reunite children with their parents. In the FLDS, the children belong to the church. The church separates them from the parents. When the parents leave, or one of the parents leaves and realizes they've got to recover their children to protect their children, there's a legal fight often to try and find those children and get them back to the parent who's left the religion. And that's what we do a lot of now.
And that's exactly the situation Elizabeth Roundy's in that we've covered. So tell me about this news conference you all decided to hold earlier this week in Cedar City.
Well, it was Tanya's idea, and so I'll give her
it
credit
was
for that.
Roger's idea.
But there is a pattern going on right now in the FLDS where one parent is in the religion and one parent is out of the religion. They both have equal rights, but they can't work together because the FLDS parent is not allowed to work with the non-FLDS parent. It would be against the religion of the FLDS parent to cooperate. And so the courts are where you have to go to get rules set where the parents have to work together. The courts are good at that. What we're experiencing now is that the children are, quote, running away, close quote, and appear to be helped by FLDS people in their running away from the non-FLDS parent, the parents who's trying to mainstream them into society. When that happens, obviously the court system breaks down because it becomes a matter of law enforcement. And so we were putting a spotlight on the problem and asking for law enforcement to get more involved and to try and understand the dilemma that these parents are in when you've got court orders or need court orders to protect the children so that they can have a relationship with their parents. And the running away problem is just something that we have to address publicly, because there's not a mechanism in the judicial system to address that.
That is exactly what Elizabeth Roundy's been going through, starting in January, when her daughter, I think she's 17 or 16, took off. And 16, and you know, her father is full on into the FLDS or the beliefs, and her mother has custody and fought legally for months and months and months to get full custody, and then this happened. So we know about this one case, but how many cases are you aware of right now as we speak where this is also happening to other families?
Oh, there's another. I think we probably had maybe 8 different families at the press conference yesterday, and they're representative of other families where children are missing at this point. But understand that in the FLDS, the children are considered to belong to the leader of the church. They don't belong to the parent. So when the leader says, parents, you're sent away to repent, the parents can be gone for years at a time, leaving their children behind with FLDS caretakers. So there are, in my opinion, maybe a couple of thousand FLDS children out there scattered around the West: Idaho, Utah, Nevada, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Midwest, various places. And they're not with their parents, not with one of their parents. Where we get involved is when one of the parents leaves the group and gets past the thinking that they've been raised with and recognizes that those children are at risk and need to be protected, need to be with their mother or their father. Then sometimes they'll seek legal help. If they come to me, we try and recover those children. But most of the kids are out there with some caretaker or on a work crew without either parent. And nobody's fighting for them because it takes a parent to step up.
Unreal to hear. So Tanya, I think one of the issues, at least from a reporter's standpoint, is you might hear about these and then you think, well, no one's going to talk. No one's going to go public with their story because they still believe in the church, or they're scared if they've left the church and they talk publicly. But it's kind of amazing that you were able to get a group of people together this week to publicly address the media and talk about this.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate, Nate. Like I was saying earlier, this is unprecedented to have this many people that are brave enough to step forward, because they're taught to fear social, or taught to fear media. They're taught to fear us as outsiders. We're Gentiles. And so to have them all come together, and we got in a room and I thought, let's see how many are really going to speak. We figured maybe 1 or 2. And so I just said, who's comfortable speaking? And every single hand in that room was raised. And it was a long conference. Like, we didn't expect it to go on that long, but everybody had something to say. There was lots of tears. There was lots of begging for the community and for law enforcement to help us find the children. It was pretty impactful yesterday.
Wow. So the question is, does it sometimes feel that you're fighting a monster that you just can't control? Because some of these kids, like you think about those that are 16 or 17. All right, let's say you get them back to their mother, but the second they turn 18, they might run back to the church. And then there's all this movement around. I mean, I don't want to say, is it a hopeless cause? That sounds really bad and like pessimistic, but how do you make a dent in the issue when there's thousands of kids settled across the rest that aren't even with their mom or dad?
Yeah, I don't know if you want to answer that, Roger. That's really a tough one, Nate, because we only serve the people that come to us, right? We don't go looking. We don't go trying to grab children and have them. We just serve the people that come to us and say, we need help. And so does it feel like a losing battle? Absolutely. I mean, what we're dealing with is a beast, right? You have all these amazing people that live in this culture, and then you have this system that's set up that if the wrong person is your leader, then all hell can break loose, right? It's a perfect environment for a perpetrator. You got a patriarchal system. You have, again, them taught to fear outsiders. You don't have any checks and balances in place. And they know they have to live this in order to reach heaven. Otherwise, they're damned to hell. And then they add on top of that is the more you suffer here on earth, the bigger your blessings are in heaven. So they think this is a flicker, right? So they're going to suffer all they need to suffer because they get to be in heaven for all eternity. So it's just and again, it's just a beast. Do I ever think it's going away? I really don't think it's going away. So you just help one person at a time. That's all we can do. One person at a time. So.
And I don't mean to minimize your efforts. Please don't take it as that, Roger, but or Tanya. But do you feel though that there might be cracks, Roger? That there might be some sort of crumbling coming, maybe.
Well, I think it's been happening for a long time that people have been making their own choices, whether or not to stay in or leave, and those choices often turn on how much information they have. The FLDS leaders control the information their members get. They do not want them to talk to anybody on the outside. They don't want them to consume any kind of media, internet, anything. They don't want information. But the people who do get information, a lot of them will leave. And when they make that personal decision and decide they want to make a change in their religious beliefs and protect their children, that's when we can help them. But like Tanya said, nobody's going into these groups trying to, pull people out or separate families. Our efforts are to protect children. And, it's all about the children. We cannot do anything to help adults unless they come to us and want help. But typically when they do come to us, they want help getting their children out.
And I guess probably once you get one or two of these, I would imagine mainly women. Although you said boys, young boys and teenage boys. Once you get a few of them coming to you for help, then others that leave, it might be easier. There's strength in numbers. If once one can come, the others know that there's help available through both of you guys.
I think we've hit a tipping point where people are leaving more and more often. And that's been the case for a number of years now. It started slowly, but more and more people are leaving and deciding that they can make it on the outside. And that's why we do it, is because there are really wonderful success stories.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. It's very painful. I don't know what decision I would make if I had been born and raised in that group. It's very difficult to get out. Often they lose their families when they decide to leave. But when you do see people come out and families come out or be reunited over time, it is a wonderful thing to see. And that's why we do it, even though, it seems like a small effort.
Well, go ahead.
I was going to say, don't you think, Roger, I've had a lot of media saying, what's the difference now? Like, what's different than before? And I feel like in years past, when we would get somebody, once legal parameters were in place in a court of law, they would follow those legal parameters. And these days, with Helaman in charge, they don't seem to care. You can have somebody who has full custody, and those children are still going missing or running away, right?
Yeah, that's the key. They quote runaway, and the FLDS parent or caretaker says, well, we have no idea where they went. They just ran away. And 12-year-old boys don't just run away.
Yeah. I wondered if maybe when Warren Jeffs went to prison, if over the years the control would kind of lessen, but it sounds like with his son, right? Helaman is his son. With him in charge, that might not be the case.
Here's the problem. Starting last summer, Helaman, Warren Jeffs' son, started sending out revelations claiming that they were from his father. And the revelations basically boiled down to this: hey, if you're an FLDS parent and you've been sent away to repent, go get your children and gather them up and bring them back to the church. We want the kids. And within 5 years, people are going to be translated. We're going to translate the children, but you have to die first. That's the concern. That's what the revelations state. That's what's in writing. And that's what we're concerned about. Now, hopefully we're wrong, and that won't happen, but you have seen situations in the past with Heaven's Gate or Jonestown or other cult situations where people do end up, losing their lives over this kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's one of the questions I asked. I said, honestly, do you really think people are going, like, if they say drink this Kool-Aid, and they said absolutely, without a doubt, they will all do it. And so we have so many people panicking because their loved ones are in there, not just their children, their siblings, their parents. All these people are still part of the FLDS. And so, yeah, it's a scary time, and I do believe it'll happen.
Okay, so there's going to be people watching that say, can I do anything to help? What can they do?
Yeah, the biggest thing is get the word out. It's what you do need, right? Like, tell people. And if you see somebody that it looks like they're from the FLDS, call our agency and let us know. Let law enforcement know. Don't engage. Be kind. Build a rapport if you can. You don't know who's in a dark situation that just needs someone to hear them out, somebody to help them. And then, of course, right now, if they want to lean into our agency, we have 23 people on a wait list right now that we have never had, and we need another full-time counselor. So if anybody's in the area that would love to get involved, we need them. So
Roger?
There's all sorts of needs. Right now we are trying to get the message out. We want to help educate law enforcement and people who have the ability to affect policy and make changes and put a focus on this. And part of the problem we face is that people hear these things and they think, oh, this can't be going on in America, and they kind of dismiss it, but it is going on in America. And we need to educate people to look for, the signs and help us find these children, get them back to their parents so that they have a decent chance at life.
That's great. Tanya, do you have a website?
I do. holdingouthelp, HELP.org.
All right. Roger, do you have a website?
I don't think so.
Okay, no worries.
My firm has a website. I don't.
Okay.
But if people contact Tanya for help, if it turns into a legal thing, she has attorneys that she refers them to, and
Sure.
And sometimes those people come to me, and even though I'm not associated with Holding Out Help formally, we work together in trying to provide, help for these people, depending on what our, based on our different roles.
Thank you both so much. Now I'd like to bring in Elizabeth Roundy. She is Elintra's mother. We've spoken with Elizabeth a few times over the past few months in depth, and tonight she joins us with an update. You're just back from the news conference in Southern Utah. How was it to be among other families that are going through the same situation that you are?
It was sad, but comforting in a way. It was really nice to get to see and meet some of those other mothers and hear their stories. And, I think we all kind of have a mutual understanding of what we're going through.
Sure. Are there any updates on your daughter? A lot of people want to know, where is she? Do you have any leads?
I do not know exactly where she's at. No, I have a pretty good idea of the people that have been helping hide her, but so far we have not been able to locate her.
Have you heard anything from her? Any communication?
Not since she sent me the letter telling me where my car was.
And that was back in January, right?
Correct.
For those people that are not familiar with your story, with your daughter's disappearance, can you just give us a brief recap of what happened right around Christmas time, right after Christmas?
Yes, it was New Year's Eve, actually. So we'd stayed up celebrating and bringing in the new year. We were finally getting to bed. It was around 2 a.m. The last time I saw my daughter, she come and poked her head in the bedroom and talked for a minute, and then she shut my door. I kind of think now she's shut up, so I probably wouldn't hear her leave. But I was already really tired because we stayed up. Anyway, she took my car and left sometime in the night. When I got up the next morning, she was gone. Her father called me around 8:30 and told me that she was at his home in Idaho Falls, which is an hour drive from where I live. And I told him she needed to come home, that I have full custody, and she's not even supposed to be talking with him according to the court order. And he just laughed out loud and told me that she was home, and told me that he wouldn't send her home. And I haven't seen her since.
And legally, you have full custody of your daughter.
Yes.
So
Since December of last year, of 2022.
2022. So this happened right after you were granted full custody.
A year after.
A year after. Okay, so December of 21, is that when you were granted full custody?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, correct. Sorry.
Okay, no
Got that
worries. You're
mixed
fine.
up.
So she disappears and you went public with it, and the police, the sheriff's office in Jefferson County has talked about this, asking the public for help in finding her. You said you have some suspicions about who she's with. Do you think she ran back to the FLDS group?
Yes, most definitely. I don't believe that she completely just ran back to them. I think that the adults in the FLDS guided her and told her exactly what to do and how to do it. That's my opinion. They told her to write me a letter so it looked like she was just running away. They told her she had to be the one that drove away in my car so that
No one else could be charged.
yes, exactly. So it couldn't come back on them. It's happened other times too. So I believe that it's definitely something that she was completely coached in doing.
That has to be so frustrating as a mom.
It's very frustrating and very heartbreaking because I don't know where my daughter is. She's 16 and she's vulnerable. And even though she may be with FLDS family somewhere, I don't feel like she's safe or where she's going. She dropped out of school, so I don't believe she's getting any education. There's a lot of concerns I have, but mostly I'm just missing her and I want her back.
Well, I can't imagine. So you got together with these other families in southern Utah, and I just spoke with Roger and Tanya, and Roger says that there could be hundreds or maybe thousands of kids within the FLDS who aren't even with a biological parent, just with a leader scattered throughout the West. I mean, is that what your experience has shown you as well?
Yes, definitely. And it's so wrong. And to me, it's nothing more or less than child trafficking. And they're getting away with it because they teach the parents they have to obey. And I mean, it's nothing short of a cult when they're doing stuff like that.
Tell me what the experience was. We talked a little bit about a minute ago about, going to southern Utah and being with these other women. But when you hear other people tell their stories and they're so similar to yours, does that give you strength knowing other people are going through it? Or is it more of a, I can't believe this is happening to so many people type of a feeling? Or both?
I think I would have to say a little of both. Honestly, I feel like it's heartbreaking to see the other mothers going through it because I feel in my heart what they're going through. but at the same time, it was encouraging to be able to meet with them and rub shoulders and, you know, just be able to talk and try and help each other out.
Elizabeth, there's so many people in Eastern Idaho and really around the world that want to do something, that want to help, but they just don't know what. Do you have any ideas? Do you need help? What's the best thing people watching can do?
Well, I mean, I appreciate all the prayers. I've actually thought about setting up a GoFundMe or something. I think that if I had a little bit more money, I might could pay a detective and we might could get on top of helping find her better. As it is right now, I haven't been able to. I mean, we were able to make some payments to a detective that I had hired, and then it kind of, we haven't been able to give him any more, so he hasn't really been able to put a lot of time into it. And that's a little discouraging, but I just, I don't even like going there, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's, but
How
Like-
are your other kids doing?
you know, I feel like my youngest son has done really well. Right after Elintra or Ellie ran away, then he was really close to her and he took it quite hard. I felt like he missed her a lot. He was kind of emotional for the first week or two, but at the same time, a lot of pressure was put on Elintra by the FLDS, by her father and other people, that she was supposed to basically be the mother to the two younger children and try and keep them faithful to the church, etc. And since she hasn't been here mothering over the other children, it feels like Alan's come out of his shell a lot. He's been a lot happier in a lot of ways, and I feel like he's gotten closer to me. They're both been very reserved and still holding back in their relationship with me, but he's come around a lot. I've been real encouraged with it.
So if for some chance Ellie happens to see this, what do you want to say to her?
Elintra, I love you dearly, and I hope you're safe and okay, but I don't feel like you're safe until you come home. Please come home. I miss you.
When's her birthday?
Her birthday's December 23rd. She turned 16 just a few days before she ran away.
Okay. Do you think that maybe Helaman Jeffs married her off to some guy?
I hope he didn't. He had no right to do that if he did. It's definitely been a concern to me that she being pulled back into the group, that there is very high concern that she may be getting mixed up in some of that stuff that's going on down there with Helaman and the FLDS, and it's very concerning to me.
Yeah. Well, Elizabeth, I know so many people have been thinking about you and praying for you and your family and wishing that the best outcome here happens and that Ellie comes home. Is there anything that you want the public to know?
You know, just I appreciate everybody's prayers and concerns, and I pray that if anybody sees her, they'll be willing to call the cops and get somebody on it as quickly as possible so that we can get her to where I feel like she's in a safe, healthy environment. And thank you.
We hope the same thing. I want to thank Elizabeth and Tanya and Roger for being here tonight. I want to thank you for watching. Again, this is a picture of Elintra. She is 5 feet 5 inches tall, weighs 135 pounds, has blonde hair and blue eyes, loves kitty cats, as you can see here. and she has been missing since January 1st. If you have any information about her, the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office wants to hear from you. You can call the dispatch number, or honestly call 911 if you know where she's at. Also, if you have information about any other missing teenage girl or boy from the FLDS or any other group who may need help, do not be afraid to reach out to law enforcement. Maybe your local police can't help, but they can direct you to someone who can. There are so many resources available. I have learned that over the 17 years that I've been a reporter. There is help available if you seek it out and if you lend a hand to someone who needs it. Thank you so much for watching tonight. I'm Nate Eaton reporting.